I asked my followers on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram what rhythms they would like me to analyze and decipher for the channel. It could be any artist or genre, and I asked for specific sections of songs that might be giving people trouble. So today is day number 1 of 10 rhythms in 10 days. I received a bunch of great suggestions, and over the next 10 days I'll be releasing one video each day breaking down these rhythms. Most of these were suggested by you all out there, but I'm going to throw in a few rhythms that I want to cover as well because this is my channel and I can do what I want. The first rhythm I'm going to cover is from a band I had the pleasure of seeing live last month. This is the song Jurassic, Cretaceous by the Ocean. This absolutely killed live, and I'd heard it before when their latest album first dropped, but I didn't realize how interesting and confusing this rhythm actually is. The trickiest aspect of this one is that there isn't a steady pulse for the first 30 seconds of the song. It makes it very hard to discern exactly what's going on, and that's something that's going to come up with a few of the other rhythms I'll be looking at over the next 10 days. The lack of a steady pulse makes the rhythm feel much more disjointed, because we're so used to steady, evenly spaced grooves in Western music. The first step I'm going to take is to find the tempo. I'm going to jump ahead to 30 seconds where the cymbals give the first clear pulse. With a rhythm like this, I'll often look ahead in a song. Sometimes that can give me a much better clue as to what's going on. Next, I'll figure out the subdivision. I'm going to start with 16th notes as that's the most common. And sure enough, that's what's happening here. The subdivision is 16th notes or 4 notes per beat. From here, I'm going to find where the pattern of the riff starts again. That will give me a good idea of where the downbeats of the measures are and what the time signature or time signatures are. The first repeat of the riff I'm feeling as being here. There are 6 beats from the beginning to this point, so that would make this a measure of 6/4. And my first instinct would be to assume that the rest of this section is also in 6/4, so let's try that. That's definitely not right, so let's take a deeper look at this second measure. It's longer than 6 beats, so I'll try 7. Seven is too many, and that means it's between 6 and 7 quarter note beats. Let's try 6.5 beats, which would be 13/8. One thing to clue into here is the crash cymbal. It clearly plays quarter notes until beat 7 where it's cut short. That in combination with the riff starting over gives me a good indication of what the time signature is. From here it repeats the first measure of 6/4 again, and I'm always looking for repetition when it comes to figuring out rhythms. More often than not, a rhythm or a riff will have repetitive elements inside of it. That leaves just one measure to look at before the whole riff starts over. I'll take the same approach I did with the 13/8 measure. Here there are 9 quarter note beats with a 10th beat that's cut in half. That totals 19 eighth notes, so I could write it as 19/8. Now that's a pretty big time signature, but it works okay. I might actually split that into 6/4 and 7/8, something like that, to make it a little bit easier to read. Now that I have the tempo, the number of measures, and the time signatures, I want to take a look at some of the patterns inside this riff. The first thing I notice is the opening 3 notes, a dotted 8th note followed by an 8th note, and then a note that hits on the E of beat 3, the second 16th note of that beat. One of the reasons this groove and pulse was so hard to find here is because of all these offbeat 16th notes. They're so close to the actual beats that they can easily throw off your perception of where those beats are. The other pattern I noticed are these repeated dotted 8th notes. Dotted 8th notes are 3 16th notes long, and these are happening at the end of the measures of 13/8 and 19/8. And these throw off the groove because the drums catch some of them and get away from that quarter note pulse. In fact, throughout this whole riff, the drums pretty much follow the riff, especially all the main hits that happen. With all that in mind, let's take a look at the second repeat of the entire riff. It sounds pretty much the same, so I'm going to try the same time signatures. And that works, except for the last measure where there's a slightly longer pause. The pause lasts an extra quarter note the second time through this whole pattern, so that gives us a measure of 21/8 instead of 19/8, or we could write it as 6/4 and 9/8. In the intro, the entire riff repeats 4 times. The first and third time end with the 19/8, and the second and fourth time end with the 21/8, which just adds 1 extra beat of silence. This is a great example of shifting meters, and the strong emphasis on offbeats, the use of space, and the lack of a steady pulse give this an unsettled sound which works incredibly well, and it helps to build up the tension through the entire opening of this song. If you haven't checked out this song before or this album, go do it right now. It's really great. So there's the first of these 10 rhythms I'm going to be covering over the next 10 days. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, all that good stuff. And I'll see you all for number 2 tomorrow. Until then, stay proggy.